Well, hi there, guys. This is your host, ID Jester. Thank you so much for checking out my video. I'm going to call this a supplemental tutorial video to kind of supplement our tutorial series that we've done for the John Tiller different software systems. We're actually going to show you how some of that comes into play and what you should think about and analyze when you're looking at a real scenario, unlike that other scenario we played. This one actually has lots of different units. We have a hierarchy, a structured command, and hopefully we can understand some of the stuff that we learned from the tutorial software system that we can apply to what we should or shouldn't be doing with our units during scenarios. So as we learned through the headquarters tutorial video, that it's ultra important to keep our headquarters in command and keep the structure flowing up and down the hierarchy of our army. I of course have on our divisional markings, but right now what I'm going to do is highlight our organizations here. And this is going to be important to how we actually proceed and look at this scenario. You can see we were actually in turn 5 of 66 here. We played through several of the different turns, and we've actually made a breakthrough here. Basically, the Germans are lined up with minefields in front of them. As a Russian player, we got to clear the minefields and then hopefully make some progress towards some of the victory points that the Germans have located behind their front lines. Made a few slight progress here in the north. We do have a breakthrough here in the middle section, and a little bit of breakthrough here as well. And we're trying to get some more units through. Obviously, it's taken us 5 turns just to get to that point. But hopefully we'll get some more gameplay for you guys here. But this video is, like I said, going to be a companion to our tutorial series because we want to talk about the structure of our command, being able to flow in and out and up and down the chain of command freely and keeping everything in good working order to keep our units fighting to the best of their abilities. If we look at our back here, we have our Southern Front headquarters, and if we double click this, we can see everything's highlighted in yellow, which means this is our Supreme Headquarters. So I'm going to zoom in here, and hopefully you watched our tutorial on the headquarters, and we know that at the beginning of our turn, behind the scenes, the computer software is going to roll a supply check for our Supreme Headquarters. It's either going to pass or it's going to fail. If it passes, it's in command. If it fails, it's out of command. Our supply source up here says that we have 75. We click on any location, we also see supply of 75 for the Allied side. So we're going to have a 75% chance on a percentile roll of this headquarter being in supply. From there, it flows down the chain of command to the next level of headquarters. If we actually go to our show organizations, we can see this here. So as the Russians, we have the Southern Front headquarters. Underneath that, we have the 2nd Guard Army, 3rd Shock Army, 5th Shock Army. We have the 28th. Some of these may or may not be included in this area. This is the 28th Army headquarters. We have the 44th Army headquarters. Nope, yep, they are down here at the bottom. So these headquarters are then going to make their supply check. Those headquarters are going to roll to see if they're in command. Again, based upon the supply level, 75% chance. If they fail, they then have a range check back to their subordinate headquarter unit if that headquarter is in command, if it passed its check. So it would flow all the way back to this. With that said, we need to look at our shading of our command range. So you can see this headquarters here. We can right click the unit. Under headquarters it says 20. So this means 20 hexes of command if the units are within that range. They're going to have a good chance of passing their supply check. As we learned before, we'll take this unit right here as an example. If you are at the exact range of a headquarter unit, you basically have a 50-50 chance of being in supply. So if we were, say, here, we'd have a 60, 70, 80, 90, etc. The closer we get to the headquarters, better chance our success is. And of course, the farther away we are, the more likely we are to fail that supply check. This is, of course, assuming that we fail our supply rule to begin with. So you can see this headquarter way down here, the 44th Army headquarter, is going to be, here's this command range here. It's going to be way outside our range of our Supreme headquarters here. So when it makes its supply check, if it fails, it's going to have a heck of a time trying to get a roll check, a range check roll back to our Supreme headquarters. So what happens is your Supreme headquarters gets one chance to pass its supply check. It's either in or out of command, and then it flows down the structure of your organizations. So from the Southern Front to the 44th Army, from there the 130th Rifle Division, which is down here holding the southern flank, the 151st Rifle Division headquarters, the 248th Rifle Division, which is not on this scenario, and the 416th Rifle Division, which isn't on this scenario either. So just these two rifle divisions are part of this scenario. So those headquarters are going to make a check. And once again, based upon whether or not the 44th Army headquarters had passed or failed its check. If it fails its supply check, it will then look back to its subordinate headquarters to see if it's in command. If it's in command, it will then do a range check. So keeping all of your subordinate headquarters, you can see we're doing a good job here. All of these units here, again, we'll turn on our organizations here. So all of the headquarters are going to be well within our range of our subordinate headquarters. It should be noted that the range listed for your headquarters is going to be the maximum that you'll ever get. And that's based upon its morale level and the size of the headquarters. The armies in this scenario have a size of 20. And as you flow down the chain of command to your divisions, let's see if we can find a division headquarters here. Here is the 130th Rifle Division. These guys only have a range of 4 as a maximum. And of course, all the units that it supplies are going to look back to this headquarters. This headquarters looks back to its subordinate headquarters. Its subordinate headquarters looks back to its subordinate headquarters. And if you have a breakdown in the chain of command because of bad locations of your units or bad location of your headquarters, this can cause you severe problems with your units not being able to rallying from being disrupted. All kinds of issues can happen as the breakdown of command happens. So let's analyze a little bit more of this scenario and take a look here. We've got several different headquarters. We have the, what is this, the 28th Army headquarters. They're going to be in charge of all of these units here. And of course, each of these different brigades or corps underneath those headquarters are going to be looking back to this headquarters. So keeping this unit in command and working and functioning with its subordinate headquarters is going to be ultra important. If we look back at our Supreme headquarters again, we look at its maximum range. Again, 50% chance if you're at the range of your headquarters. You, of course, can pass a check, but of course, the farther away we go, the more chance we're going to have of it failing. The closer we are, obviously, the better chance we are going to have. That doesn't mean we want to stack all of our headquarters right on top of one another, but what we want to do is we want to think about how this is going to impact our gameplay with our scenarios. I'm going to turn off this, and I'm going to turn off our shading here so a little bit easier for you guys to see. So specifically, if we look at these this headquarters here, you can see that this is the 2nd Guards Mechanized Corps, which is in charge of these units here, which happens to be the 4th Guards Mechanized Brigade, the 6th Guards Mechanized Brigade, the 5th Guards Mechanized Brigade, and of course the 37th Guards Tank Brigade. And of course, we can right click and see that, oh, this guy's only got a range of 3 of 5 right now. So again, the most you're ever going to get is their value on the back of their card, 7 of 10 for this unit as well. So you want to make sure, and even to be as close to, but without having to really stress out about it. But if we look at this, obviously this is going to be in charge of all of these units here. So if I was to just not understand any of this, and I'm just playing this scenario and going, oh, okay, well, let's see, what I'm going to move these units here. This is the 4th Guards Mechanized Brigade here, and they're already on this road, so we're going to bring them up this road, right? And then we're going to bring them into this town, and maybe we'll bring them up here to help support up here to the north. Well, these guys here, they're already on this road, so we're going to send them down to the south, and all of a sudden, you can see what's going to end up happening. We're going to have units down here in the south. We're going to have units up here in the north. We'll keep our headquarters with those units, but then all of a sudden, those headquarters, those brigade headquarters, are going to be outside the command range of their core unit, core headquarters. And so they're going to fail their supply checks, and then they're going to fail their range checks because they're farther away from their subordinate headquarters. And then all of a sudden, we're going to have a breakdown in the chain of command. So you have to kind of analyze and think, because this is kind of like a little trap scenario here. The first couple turns of this scenario, they were fixed in position, so they couldn't move. And I think this is the first turn they can actually now move. And now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to start moving these guys down this way. I'm going to move these guys down this way. And, eventually maybe I can put my core headquarters, maybe here to support some of the guys up here at the north, and maybe down here to the south. But all of a sudden my core, it fails its command check, and it goes from range 10 to like range 5. And then all of a sudden half of my different brigades are outside the command range. So when those headquarters need to make supply checks, then all of a sudden they fail, which means their command range goes down. And that means all the units that are outside the supply range of our brigade headquarters, when they're looking back to the headquarters to try and get supplies or try to rally from being disrupted, they're going to start failing their checks, and we're going to have a huge breakdown in the hierarchy of the command structure of our army. So I guess long story short, we have these organizations for a reason. This is part of, let's see, this is part of the different headquarter units. Here we got the shock army. Again, we could see it's got a range of 20 maximum. So it's going to cover a pretty good area, and it covers quite a few units. But you notice its coverage stops kind of here, and it's way down here in the south. So it might be better for this guy to relocate, maybe more up towards this town location, so it can, help supply the headquarters maybe up here. The other thing to think about is, again, these units that are, these headquarters that are failing. The closer we are to them with our superior headquarters that are in command, the better chance we have of them passing their tests. So that's something to think about as well. If we look at, say, this core, you can see that we have several brigades inside that. We have the 33rd Guards, we have the 24th Guards, and we have the 86th Guards Division. Again, you can look at all of this info in the show organizational hierarchy chart, so you can see how the structure is going to flow up and down your chain of command, but keeping all of those guys within a nice range of our Army Corps is going to be ultra important, and keeping our Army Corps hopefully close to or within range of our Supreme Headquarters is going to be ultra important. And keeping that within our Army headquarters is going to be ultra important as well. So we actually have an Army headquarters. Is it down here? So this guy here is in charge of all these different units here. So again, keeping these headquarters, uh, the core headquarters, you know, within 20 of our 28th Army headquarters is going to be important to do. So, maybe this headquarters needs to move up a little bit, just a little bit, so it can be closer to some of these headquarters. And yeah, so you want to make sure you're flowing your structure around. And for me, because I'm not an expert at, I'm more of a tactical war gamer than I am a strategic war gamer. I'm used to playing squad type battles, those type of games where we don't really have hierarchy command, we don't really have supply, we don't have a lot of the things that these games cover. So I've had to kind of transition and help myself learn all these things. And some of you out there might be similar to me, and that you don't quite understand all of the hierarchy and the structure and everything, and how ultra important it is in your gameplay. Uh, so we want to keep this 28th Army headquarters. It does have a pretty good range, if I'm not mistaken, but using my my different tools with my different highlights, I spend some time and not just go through and just idly just start moving units around. I think it's important to take some time to actually figure things out. If we actually zoom in, we can actually see this headquarters here doing a pretty good job. All of its subordinate units pretty close. This headquarters, not too bad. We could probably move it up a little bit closer. It's not going to kill anything. We don't want to put it on the front line and get it, attacked or artillery bombarded or anything like that. But, keeping it, close to the headquarters is not a bad idea either. Of course, all these units, pretty good. And color code, you can kind of see a little bit easier. These headquarters, not too bad, although this headquarters is disrupted. So you can see it's now got range of 2 out of 4 because it's disrupted. So if we actually view this and go shade command range, you can see, half of our units are outside the command range, which means they're not going to get a check to the headquarters. So we might want to move this guy up a little bit, maybe into that town there, and look at that. So now we got more units. Hopefully we can keep them in good working order. If you look at some of these units, looks like everybody, we got one unit that's disrupted there, and this guy's so far okay. These headquarter units, these guys are pretty good. He's out of command, so he failed his check. He happens to be a division headquarters. So everyone underneath his command, if we go to our hierarchy again, we do have the hierarchy on, okay. Just wanted to make sure. Organization, so everyone under his command. See, we got one guy back here a little bit, but yeah, not too bad. We can look at our headquarters here for the brown. Where is it? Sometimes it's hard to see with the range on. Oh, here it is right there. See, they're pretty close to well within one another's range. So you definitely want to just spend some time and make sure and kind of analyze. And that's why the color coding is kind of, for me, it's ultra important, because that way I can kind of see if, okay, well, this guy, if he's got to break out here to the south, well, where's his headquarters? If his headquarters way up here, then breaking out to the south is probably not the best idea for this guy. Might be a better idea for the purple guys to break down to the south, because their headquarters is a lot closer than maybe the headquarters for this unit. So that covers that pretty much. Hopefully that you understand the hierarchy and the structure and the command, and taking some time to actually figure it all out, I think is a good thing, actually. It's never going to hurt anything to actually do that. It might slow down your gameplay a little bit, but in the long run, it's going to help your gameplay, because you're going to understand where things should go a little bit easier and a little bit better. One other thing we didn't talk about actually in the tutorial series is actually about mines. You can see here if I click on a hex, it's got mines ×2, which means if I move an enemy unit into that hex, it's going to take a mine attack with double damage or double attack power if their mines go from rank 1 up to rank 3. So in this scenario, there's minefields everywhere. To actually get those minefields removed, you take your engineers, like this guy here, and you move them into the hex with the mine. It takes 2/3 of their movement points to move in. Once they move in, it should automatically stay clearing mines. At the start of my next turn, so in this case, at the start of turn 6, if this engineer is not disrupted, it will lower the value of the mines in the hex by 1. So in this case, it'll clear out the mines because there's only 1 level left in there. Might take us several turns if we've got a mine level of 2 or 3. And of course, your disrupted engineers won't clear any mines, so you want to make sure your engineers stay in good working order, keep their morale and their fatigue really keep their morale level A, B, C, or you don't want them lowered. Keep their fatigue level as low as possible as well. And then hopefully they'll clear mines, and that'll be part of your command report that you can get at the beginning of your next turn. Let's see here. Is there any other engineers that I think? One thing to think about when you're doing your engineers is because of the zone of controls every unit has. So this unit here has zone of control over every one of these hexes here. I can't, there was mines here in this hex. I could not move this engineer from this hex to this hex because I can't move from zone of control into another hex with zone of control. I could take this unit and move them into that hex if there was mines, since he's an engineer, to help clear out the mines. And the last thing, I think we mentioned this briefly in one of our episodes, but if you're not sure if your units are ever in command or out of command of their subordinate headquarters, if you look at them, units that are highlighted in white are within their command range. Units that have yellow or orange, I don't know what color this actually is, but it's not white, are actually out of range of their headquarters. So you can see here the 7th Engineer Miner Brigade, which is part of the 7th Engineer Miner South Front Engineers, and then the South Front. So they are outside their range of the headquarters there. So just keep that in mind. You can see those units as you're moving them around and checking through your different units when you click on them. This guy's clearing mines. He's outside his range of this headquarters. I think all of these units actually, these engineers are going to be, because I don't think their headquarters is actually available for this scenario. You can see we've got several disrupted units here in this X. Another way to really check that really quickly is highlight broken or disrupted units, and you can see we actually have some broken units for the enemy as opposed to just disrupted. They have a big B on them with the yellow sign, and they show broken on their unit card. Because of Fog of War, we can't see anything else, but there are the 306 Infantry Division. They're part of the 306 Infantry Division. And even if I right-click, it won't show me the back of the card. So Fog of War, if you want to use it or don't want to use it, depending on how familiar you are with the system, but you can see here, got a few more broken units, and this might be actually a good thing to actually do is, view, highlight broken or disrupted units, and then once they're highlighted, you can kind of figure out, where do I want to move my headquarters for that unit? So you can see I've got several of them broken here, so my headquarters in a pretty good spot for that. There's one guy way over here. So if my headquarters, let's say, was back here, and I've got a bunch of broken units for him, I definitely want to make sure I move that headquarters up. So this is kind of a good way to gauge that as well. This headquarters, again, trying to keep my broken units as close to my headquarters as possible there. We've got a couple broken, disrupted, low ammo, broken units there. So your headquarters might be better served moving it up there. All right, well, let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to cover? I wanted to talk about the mines a little bit just to give you a rough estimate. See, this guy is clearing mines. There are different states of mines as well. If I click on this one, you can see, no, that's a bad example. You can see this one here. You can see that it's capital MINES times 2. If we look at this one here, you can see it's lowercase MINES times 2. And the difference is whether or not they've had, if I'm not mistaken, from trying to understand the mines, is whether an engineer has actually worked on that spot to clear a path through the mines for your guys, from what I understand. So obviously we must have had an engineer here. Maybe he got disrupted. No, that's not him. He's clearing mines. Not sure what happened, why this all of a sudden went to lowercase mines, but just keep that in mind. It's kind of like your trenches and improvements. Let's see if we can find some here. So trenches in lowercase give you half the benefit of the ones that are in uppercase. You can see trenches here, minus 20%. If they're in lowercase, which happens to be this guy, nope, not that one. Where was that one? It was around here somewhere. There it is. So basically, a trench goes to lowercase when it's been abandoned. So if your units are in the hex and they leave the hex and there's no units in there, they've been abandoned and they get half value for them. Of course, you can build them back up. You can see here we've pushed the enemy back, knocked some of them out. We actually have a little bit of a breakthrough going on here. We're in lowercase trenches here. Units must spend their whole turn. They can't attack or fire. So you can see we're at full movement points here. If they spend all their movement points, they can try to improve that. Go to command, and it is, I'm sure I'm looking right at it. Where is it? Dig in. So we're going to toggle dig in. It should show us that we're digging in, and hopefully next turn, there's a percent chance based upon their morale level, their size of the unit, whether or not they're an engineer. There's a complex formula, but basically just every turn they're digging in, there's a chance they're going to improve it from just a lowercase trench to a full case trench. Of course, if I then move the unit out without moving another unit into that hex, it's going to switch back to lowercase trench. So just keep that in mind as well. Let's see, I think that's pretty much all else I wanted to cover. I just wanted to give kind of an overview of the hierarchy of command, talk about keeping your headquarter units functioning well within your organizations. Really, he's only has, and he's disrupted, so his command range is only 2 hexes. So fortunately, he doesn't have very many units under his command anymore. 3 of them, but fortunately, they're still in command. Engineers, disrupted units, trenches, broken units. We haven't actually showed you broken units, but you can see now that we actually playing a what I would call, a full-fledged John Tiller scenario with plenty of units, hierarchy of command, plenty of map space and distance and things to think about and worry about. We can't just haphazardly just move our units around. Keeping all these units, again, bringing these guys over here, bringing these guys down to the south flank, and then bringing these green guys up here to the north, are just asking yourself for command and control structure problems. Because these headquarters are not, maximum we're ever going to see is 10 hexes out of this thing. So if we position it, say here, we're going to cover to maybe here to here, kind of in this area. If we start moving units up here or too far to the south, then all of a sudden they're going to start failing their command checks, and then we're going to run into problems with all of our units on the front line. So hopefully, if you're learning the system, just move counters around, enjoy and play fun and have a good time. But if you're trying to figure out why you're not doing as well as you should be doing, or is there things you can improve upon, things that you're not thinking about or able to figure out, then hopefully some of these things might be new to you, or might inspire you to think about things when you're actually playing. So love to hear your thoughts, your comments, your suggestions. You guys have been great so far, posting all these things, so I do appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you guys in another episode. I might actually try to get some gameplay here in the Mayas front, and see if we can then, kind of show you how a full-fledged breakthrough fist fighting with plenty of counters and hierarchy and plenty of turns to play with. So hopefully we'll do that for you guys soon. I'm looking for your thoughts and comments so I know what you guys are looking for, and we will see you guys in the next episode. So thanks so much for watching. See you guys next time.